Hi everybody, I am Darcy, I'm a realtor with Vantage West, and I'm here today for another episode of Get to Know Kelowna with Chris Germana. He is the founder, owner, and operator of Motorwerke here in Kelowna. They are an incredibly highly rated automotive service shop. They focus on European brands, but they can tackle pretty much everything. And I can say from someone who has worked in a shop before and seen many shops, just walking in the front door, this is one of the cleanest, most well-maintained, well-organized shops I've been in a long time. So
thanks.
Congrats. Yeah.
Appreciate that.
It's a beautiful, beautiful spot you got here. And if you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend you come on by and see what these guys have to offer. Is that good? Founder, owner, operator? Is that?
Yep, that's correct. Yep.
Cool. Great.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. I mean, I'm still in the operations. I'm not boots on the ground as much as I used to be. I made that transition last year on a more permanent basis because of the growth.
Yeah.
I've kind of bounced into operations and out of operations several times in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out my way through the storm with the people that we had, and that's why I say in the last 3 to 5 years we've really come into our own with a group of people that we've managed to recruit and retain, and that's what allowed me to get to the point where I can actually do what I need to be doing as a business owner and focusing on working on the business instead of in it. So
it's got to be a little hard for someone who's, I mean, you've obviously been in the trenches, getting dirty. Is it kind of hard making the shift from
because it was
on the vehicles to
100%?
Yeah,
because it was the first really tough transition was going from the shop and working on cars to then working with customers as a service advisor.
Yeah.
In that position, in that role,
which is a tough job in its own right.
It is. It is, and it was tough because when you're building something from nothing out of the ground up, it's like your baby and you don't want to let go.
Yeah.
And then trying to transition away from being a service advisor was even more difficult than coming out of the shop working on cars, because you want to be the person that's shaking everybody's hand. You want to be the person that's engaging with people and
got the relationships now.
Yeah,
right? You want to
and so that was a big struggle for me over the years. And I think partly, I mean that was a big reason why it took me so long to fully transition out of an operations role as an owner, because I loved serving customers. I loved working with my team so much, but it does get to a point where you really need to start focusing on your people and continuing to grow and expand so you can create career paths for them as you grow, because if you don't, then you kind of become the lid on the jar, which is your organization, and I didn't want to be that lid anymore. So after BCIT, what did you do? What was your path? How did you get here?
So
I'm going to interview you first.
Yeah, you should. I appreciate it. So BCIT, I actually went to Australia, and in Australia, I was like, being a mechanic, owning a mechanic shop, 100% where I want to be. I had a Jeep YJ that I'd like swapped axles on, and I'd put a diff locker in, and I was like, this off-road, that was 100% my passion. Came back, and I had these big dreams after Australia, like I was going to do X, Y, and Z. Joined on with a family friend who has a shop in Vancouver called West Coast Autosport. Did my year there, realized I really wanted to run the shop. I didn't want to be the guy, because I was doing oil changes and like just mechanic stuff. And I loved it, but that's not where I wanted to end up. So I wanted to pursue something more, so I figured I'd try and go to university. And I actually, for some reason, totally switched my passion. I was like, oh, I'll do human kinetics at university. So I went to university up here for human kinetics. Didn't love that either. Went to switch into engineering. Didn't, but I was able to get into the business program, so I did that. After the business program, I ended up working at Mercedes as like a warranty administrator. So data entry.
Yeah.
But through my connections at Mercedes, I met a guy who'd come to Vantage West, and they had an info night, and he said, you should come check it out. It's a cool company. I really enjoy it. You'll like it. Joined them, and been with Vantage West for a little over 6 years now.
Awesome.
Yeah. So it was a roundabout path.
Yeah.
But
that's
it got me here, and I thoroughly enjoy like real estate. I love it. I love the people. I love that it's different every day, which is what I was hoping to get out of something like owning a shop, would be that sort of, you have to be creative, you have to find solutions, you're dealing with people, you're dealing with suppliers, you're dealing with, like that is where I like the space I like living in, where it's unique every day, and real estate definitely gives me that.
Awesome.
Yeah. And you started out as a tech?
I did, yeah. Yeah, I started off as a tech. I actually, out of high school, I went to a graphic design college in Ontario called Sheridan College in Oakville.
Okay.
And
my brother's neck of the woods. He does graphic design and video game design and all that.
realized after a year and a half, I withdrew from the program because I realized that my love of automobiles was more than my love of art and design.
enough, yeah.
And I love art and design, but I pursued that. I found out about a school in Phoenix, Arizona that offered what no other tech school in Canada, automotive technology school could offer, because they had graduate programs that were directly affiliated with all the European brands that I wanted to work for.
Oh, cool.
So I found out more information about the school, the tuition costs, what was involved to get in, and I worked for a year and a half as an educational assistant with the Board of Education with special needs kids, and did that full time Monday to Friday, and then I stocked shelves at a grocery store to make extra money to save up as much as I could on weekends, and moved to Arizona and in my early 20s, and I ended up working my butt off down there to try and compete with the other students because I was at a bit of a disadvantage because I wasn't legal to work in the US. I had a student visa.
Yeah.
So I did a bunch of homework at that time using the old dial-up internet 20 years ago, 20 plus years ago. That's right. So I did that and researched the heck out of it and tried to figure out a way that I could stay down there and get a work visa. And I ended up contacting a immigration lawyer at Buffalo, New York, that in the beginning they almost laughed at me when I told them I was going to become a mechanic and, could I get a work permit? And so I actually had to sell to them the understanding that our industry was changing and it was becoming far more technologically advanced. So this is back in the early 2000s when vehicles were just starting to get bus systems and multiple modules in the vehicle, and I actually had to sell it to these lawyers that,
This is the
these cars are rolling computers now. It's not like it was before. We're not grease monkeys anymore. So through that process, they were able to figure out a loophole in the trade NAFTA visa system where they had a position that was in the list, because in order to get a TN visa, you have to be within those professions in that list. Okay. And one of the professions in the list was scientific technician / technologist, and part of the descriptor of that profession was you have to work hand in hand. Where we found the loophole was you have to work hand in hand with the manufacturer. You have to work hand in hand with production and quality control of these cars. And working as a technician in dealerships, you effectively do that because you work with your field service engineer, you report problems on new cars, and then they feed that back to the factory on ways to improve glitches in production so that they can improve the cars year over year. So that was our loophole, and we got approved. So I ended up working for Roger Penske down there in North Scottsdale, and I started my career in downtown Phoenix at a really old rundown dealership, and then I worked night shift for the first year, and then we moved into the new complex in North Scottsdale, which if anybody's been to Scottsdale, they know this complex because it's like Penske's pride and joy. It has everything from Ferrari, McLaren, Bentley, Aston Martin, Maserati, all the way down to like Volkswagen and everything in between. I shouldn't say down to Volkswagen, but you know what I mean? Like a very full spectrum of 20 plus brands on one property, and hundreds and hundreds of service bays between all the buildings. It's a massive, massive automotive complex. Mostly European cars.
It's all like service, not sales, or both? Like
both,
everything. Okay.
sales and service.
It's big.
Yeah, so it's a bunch of dealerships in one property.
Yeah.
And at the center corner of the property, at the corner of the street, he's got his racing museum. So there's a bunch of Indy cars in there, open wheel cars, trophies lining the walls. They've got a cafe in there that you can go and so it's really, I think that was like probably his like bucket list to build, and he decided to do it in North Scottsdale. So I was blessed with the opportunity to basically start my career there.
Wow.
So I learned a lot, not just about, through my apprenticeship with them, but I learned a lot about systems and processes there. I learned a lot about what works and what doesn't, and I kind of took away the things that I liked and left the rest, and then ended up working for another very large corporately structured dealership in Toronto. Met my wife, started a family. I'm originally from Southern Ontario, and everybody asked me why would you move from Arizona when you could have ended up maybe getting a permanent residency down there? And my answer is always because I missed Canada. Like, we live in such an incredible country, and after a number of years, Southern Ontario and the rat race in Toronto started to grind on me. Mm-hmm. a lot of commuting, a lot of hours, working as a flat rate technician. It definitely weighs on you, and the environment in the shop, and the constant push for hours, and we came out for a vacation to Vancouver. I had spent quite a bit of time on the U.S. West Coast in California when I lived in Phoenix, because people just go to California coast to get out of the heat in the summer when you live in Phoenix, even if it's just for the weekend.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time on the ocean in California, and at that time, and I had never been to the Canadian West Coast, so we went to Vancouver, and we drove up from Vancouver to here, and we just fell in love with the valley and started inquiring with dealerships here, and ended up getting a job, and
wow.
Moved out here a year later, moved everything, and that was 17 years ago. And so I worked as a tech here for about a year, and
who'd you start with here?
BMW.
Oh, nice.
It was definitely in the very early years of their startup phase of that dealership, and took the last 4 months of my wife's mat leave at the time for our second child, my son Noah. And at the time it was a very small dealership, and when I went back, I got fired because they didn't like that I left, because I kind of left them hanging. There was only me and 2 other techs at the time.
Oh, wow.
And so I didn't fight it. I was at the point where I was also thinking about moving on. And so I went back to school and took a course that was subsidized by the government through Community Futures for new business startups.
Yeah.
And learned a lot in a very short period of time, and decided to jump in with both feet and start my own business.
And we talked about this a little bit, but do you want to share a little bit about your why? I mean, obviously you've gone through a long path to get you to where you are now. You've built this amazing shop. What was the driver? What was your why that kept you going through all this?
In the beginning, it was I really wanted to do some things differently, and I guess do some things that were unconventional in our industry. Mm-hmm. And one of them was, it's very common to have, the nice sales cars up front, and very clean and classy in a lot of dealerships, and then the shop is always kind of tucked away at the back. Mm-hmm. And that has changed over the last, I would say, decade or so, where a lot of the dealerships are getting to the point where there's more glass and you can see into the shops, and I think that's fantastic, but the shop is always considered still as like the back of the business. Mm-hmm. And a sign on the door that says, safety glasses, employees only. My perspective on it was, well, if you can have a shop that's as clean as a sales floor, why can't people walk through?
Show it off.
People can trip and fall in a sales or out in the lot or anywhere. I mean, yeah. If you have a shop that's well organized and your people are respectful and engaging with customers, and you train them to be that way, and there's no reason then why you can't have customers walk right into the shop and meet the person that's working on the car. Very see cool. The car up on the hoist and see the things that we're looking at and identifying in an inspection. And I find that education process with the customer has really helped us grow and build relationships over the years, because people aren't used to that. Mm-hmm. And when you give them that time and you give them that kind of experience, they feel appreciated. Mm-hmm. And they walk away with some more knowledge to make a more informed decision about the repairs they need to do on their car. Totally. So that was one of the biggest things I wanted to do differently, and we still work hard every day to do that and to provide that kind of experience, especially on the first visit when we're just starting to build the relationship. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I like to keep using the word relationship, because it really is. I mean, a car is a big investment for somebody. It's scary. It's this thing that a lot of people don't know the ins and outs of. Mm-hmm. So being able to be comfortable with the person servicing their usually fairly expensive vehicle is super important. So I'm glad you guys take that stance. And I look at the parallels of, you go to a really fancy restaurant, you see the chef preparing your food.
I love that.
It's kind of the same here.
I love that.
Like you bring your car here and you get to see them working on the vehicle. It's really cool.
Definitely. And I mean, I've always felt special when I go to a restaurant and at some point the chef walks out and
says, hey,
how's your meal? Like, to me, that I feel so great when that happens. I don't know what it is, but you're talking to the person that had their hands on the food that created this, and in a similar fashion, when someone can speak to the technician who has their hands on your vehicle and build that direct relationship, I think it's a big deal for people. My intentions in the beginning were just to have a 2 or 3 bay shop with a couple of employees, and after 14 years,
surpass that a little bit.
After 14 years, and it was a journey. I mean, we certainly didn't do things right all along the way. It was kind of the school of hard knocks for me, because I knew enough about cars to start a business, but I certainly didn't know anything about business.
Yeah.
So I learned the hard way the first several years, and then I started getting involved in groups and going to conferences in the U.S. and being in rooms with a lot of people that had a lot more experience than I did, and a lot of people that were a lot smarter than I was.
Yeah.
And picked a lot of brains over the years as well with my own customers, because I'm also very fortunate to have a lot of really great people, really successful people coming in the door here every day. And building relationships with those kinds of people and taking them to lunch and dinner and just learning.
Yeah.
And now we're up to 9 service lifts with a total of 25 on staff, including all of our support staff and part-time staff.
Jeez.
So
it's
been amazing. Yeah, it's been literally a lot of blood, sweat, and tears over the years. So
I believe it.
So that's kind of a summary from where I started and the journey to get here. So
awesome.
And I couldn't have landed in a better place. I mean, Kelowna is an incredible city. It's an incredible community.
Yeah.
Not
quite the same money here as down in Scottsdale. We were there last year, and it's like every second car is a Land Rover.
Definitely, it's a different animal down there. I mean,
yeah.
It's I place a lot of value in breathing clean air. I place a lot of value in being able to drive for
having a lake,
10 or 15 minutes.
Some sort of water.
Yeah, having a lake, to have access to at any time, and having mountains that are just 10 minutes away that you can go for a hike. And I mean, that's we're so lucky to live here. I'm very happy, and I couldn't be more grateful for the team that I have. And it wasn't always this way. I mean, like every other business, it goes through transitions and it goes through its own kind of growth path and journey, and a lot of ups and downs. But in these last kind of 3 to 5 years, we've really started to pull things together in terms of our people, my own management leadership skills. I mean, I've learned a lot being part of some of the groups that I belong to. Gotten involved with industry-specific coaching for myself and even some of my team members as well. And I just realized over the last few years that, things are going so well that, I always had this dream of having a company that would eventually become employee-owned. So right from the beginning of the business, actually, it was always something I aspired to, because I always liked reading about different companies that were employee-owned or that had similar kind of shareholder structures, and
so we're trying to in our office,
and the great things that come out of that. And so so I thought about it many times over the years, but I just didn't think we had the right collection of people to do it until the last several years. And so a couple of years ago, I decided to actually do it and do it right. Not just have a profit share program, but actually bring in owners on the team from within, give them an opportunity to buy into the company at a very attractive price, do it in a way that they could afford it. Because the way I looked at it, Darcy, like we already had people on our team that were working like they own the business. And that kind of business model of building a business to one day walk away with a fat check in your pocket and ride off into the sunset, I mean, that's great. And I don't knock people that do that. I mean, they deserve it. When you put up all the sacrifice and the effort to build and grow a company. But to me, there's something much more meaningful to give people more than just a great career, a great place to work, great benefits, and all the other perks that you get within a great company. I wanted to give them something more that they would get a similar reward to what I was getting, and for all the hard work over the years.
Lots of parallels between what you do for your employees and what your employees are going to do for the customer, right? Like if you look at a customer and just say, I'm going to give them a good oil change and get them out the door versus I'm going to make a customer for life, you're doing the same thing with your employees. You're making employees for life by giving them a great place to work and hopefully giving them a better experience the whole way. Instead of just one good experience getting a good paycheck, you're letting them see the runway of the whole company, which is pretty cool.
Giving them a path.
Yeah.
Giving them something to look forward to every month with, bonus structures that are set up to reward performance and to reward exceptionalism for not only customers but also their fellow team members.
Totally.
We do some really cool things like twice a week during our morning huddles, team members give out a Tim's card. Nice. Or like a gift certificate to the tool truck for exceptional performance and recognizing when somebody does something that aligns with our core values.
Amazing.
And so it's really cool because it's like it goes from one person and then the next person nominates the next person and then that person that got it the next day it's just stuff like that we do. And we have team lunch every Thursday. We all get together and set up a big table in the shop and we all sit down and have a meal together.
Nice.
So it's like, it's stuff like that that I've learned about from other businesses over the years and just stuff that to me just made sense to do to take care of people. And going back to the shareholder program, it kind of goes in line with everything else that I do. Like if I'm going to do something, I want to do 100%. So I don't want to just set up a profit share program. I want to set it up so that they actually become partners. They become minority partners and owners in the business. And then I'm looking to grow that over the years to get it to the point where we have several people on the team that own part of the company and eventually become completely employee owned when I transition out as a long-term succession plan. And to me, going back to that thing with like what matters to me, that to me is a much more fulfilling way to plan my future than to just hope that somebody comes along and gives me millions of dollars for my business someday. I'd rather do it that way and maybe walk away with a little less money, but know that the people that worked hard to help me on my journey are also getting that extra reward for their work.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
I like it.
And so just last year we have 3 team members that bought in, and
amazing.
And it's a great feeling to give them that certificate that they actually own shares in the company. And
cool.
We had them framed and presented it to them in front of the rest of the team. And it was a really cool moment.
Super exciting.
Something I've wanted to do for a very long time. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
On Google, you guys have a ton of reviews. Like we focus on reviews, and you guys have almost as many as we do. So like you're crushing it with the reviews, and those don't come for nothing. So
yeah, they're not easy to get.
No, they're not. Especially, I imagine, for an automotive shop. Like, you don't have that much interaction with clients. Like, I work with people for months and months to get a review. I mean, you have people come in, and it could be as simple as an oil change, but to have 518 reviews, right? So you're obviously doing something right there. Any brand, right? For our vehicles here, or are you
specialize in
trying to be European?
We specialize in European, but we do work on any brand of vehicle because the way that we look at it is, it's not about the car. It's
quality
about
of
servicing people.
Yeah.
It's about taking care of people.
Yeah.
So, for example, we've got a lot of customers that have a daughter or a brother or somebody that has a domestic or an import vehicle, a brand that that we don't always service, we don't specialize in, and the answer is always yes, because we built the relationship, they trust us, they like the way that we do business and the way we serve them, and so why not go outside of what you normally do? I mean, yes, we are a business that specializes, but we don't want to sacrifice serving people well and going that extra step just because it's a vehicle that's outside of what we specialize in.
Cool.
Because frankly, I mean, most of the domestics, I say most because there's always exceptions, but domestic vehicles and some of the other brands that we may not regularly service, most of them are pretty straightforward compared to what we service all day. Like the European cars humble
They've got
us.
the most...
They challenge us. And
sure.
even though we know them really well and we have all the tools to service them and all the factory diagnostics and everything we need to access everything, as far as electronically with modules and warning lights and all that, they still challenge us
I bet.
every day, which is which is good.
Part of the fun, right? Yeah.
It is. It is. It'd be pretty boring if all you're doing is timing belts and tires and oil changes every day.
Yeah, cool.
So and it's a great team thing too, because it's awesome to see the technicians get together around a car and work together and have that camaraderie to figure things out. And that happens often here because the cars are challenging.
Mm-hmm.
So
very cool.
Yeah.
I'm sure you get this question all the time. Why would someone come here as opposed to taking their vehicle to the dealership?
It's a great question. I think expanding on what we talked about earlier with that connection with technicians and the people behind the business, I think one of the things that people will find very differently about us is it's not a transactional experience. It's very personal. We slow down the process when people come in to drop off their car, and then again when they pick it up. And there's a lot of communication and things that happen in between. We have, digital inspection reports that we text and email to them, for example, so that if it is a situation where a customer can't come into the shop and be under their vehicle, we do the next best thing, and we send them photos and a very, very well laid out breakdown of kind of like a bill of health on their vehicle. It's not just the old school checklist that you get when an inspection is done on your car and oil change. It's a very comprehensive report, and it makes the customer feel more engaged with communication and what we're seeing and what we're advising. And then, a lot of times the question will also be asked, some of the more common questions is, how much is an oil change? What is your labor rate? And I sometimes answer those questions with a question. It's like, what are you looking for? Mm-hmm. Because if you're looking for the cheapest price, we may not be for you. But if you're looking for value, we are priced competitively. But I think what really matters is, instead of asking questions like, what's your labor rate? I think from my perspective as a customer, what should be asked is, can you tell me about the experience of some of your technicians?
100%.
Because if you've got a technician who knows the vehicle that you own, and they have several years of experience, they're a Red Seal technician or they're a master level technician, you could take it somewhere that has half the labor rate that we have on that particular car, and we have several labor rates. That way it's fair, so that the person who's driving the Volkswagen isn't paying the same as the person who's driving the Porsche, because they require a lot of different tooling and more investment for us. So that's why we do it, to keep it fair for customers. But getting back to that question about labor rate, that you should ask questions that have to do with the personnel in the shop, because that technician will likely diagnose the problem or fix the issue in half the time or less than somebody who is not experienced in those cars.
Properly as well, right? Because all of these cars have a certain systematic approach to diagnosing.
And it's done right, and you can drive it on a road trip and not worry about something happening or having to bring it back because something was forgotten, or this didn't get tightened, or that didn't get torqued, or they didn't reset this software because they didn't have the tool. Those are the questions that should be asked.
And you've said it a couple of times, and just walking through the shop, I noticed it. Like the investment you guys have in the technology and the tools to be able to work on these vehicles, because it's not just wrenches and ratchets anymore. It's computer programs. I saw your alignment machine. Looks like one of the nicest alignment machines I think probably
here, right?
So you've got the
pretty,
tools to be able to tackle it. Right?
Yeah, it's pretty cool stuff. It's there's a lot of money over the years that's been reinvested, and that definitely creates efficiencies, but it also provides accuracy in the repairs that we're doing. It empowers our technicians and gives them what they need to be successful with the diagnostics and the inspections and the repairs. So tooling is another big one too. I mean, when you ask questions at a shop, instead of asking what the price is, ask them more questions about the kind of equipment and tooling they have. And those are the things that are really going to make a difference ultimately for the customer and the experience, and what really matters to people, especially the people that drive cars that they want to take care of, and they drive cars that need to be reliable. Those are some of the more important questions to ask, and taking the time to do things like ask for a shop tour.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that you will find out about a business when you get more intimate with its people and its facilities and operation. And shake hands and talk to the people that are within the business. And I think that kind of engagement will, again, give you a lot more value than simply asking how much is an oil change.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Cool. So like that, you ever hear that story about the old school, I think it is actually a mechanic in the story, but the old school mechanic walks in and takes a wrench and bangs on one thing and the engine starts working again, and someone says, oh, well, it shouldn't cost me anything. And he says, no, this was 50 years of experience and I knew exactly what happened to hammer, right? Like that's the kind of idea here. You know, you've got the techs here that have the training and the experience and the tools to be able to do things properly and efficiently.
Yeah.
And that doesn't come for free, but you're getting the proper work on your vehicle because you've got the staff and the tools to do that. Right?
Definitely.
Very cool.
Yeah, for sure. And the other important question to ask is, what's your warranty? Because that's often something that gets overlooked when vehicle repairs are done. You know, is this part covered for a year? Well, does that mean the labor is covered for a year?
And oftentimes it's not,
right?
Yeah.
So if the part's covered, am I paying for labor if it fails again? Our warranty's 3 years, unlimited kilometers. It covers parts and labor. So it's one of the best warranties in the industry. We do that because we're confident that the parts that we source are really good quality, and we're confident that our technicians are. We have the confidence in our technicians that they're trained properly, and they have the expertise and the knowledge to do the job right. Yeah. So we can.
Incredible. So 3 years. If somebody comes in for water pump or alternator, it's 3 years on the part, and
labor's covered as well.
Wow. Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, we've covered a lot over the years.
Yeah,
because inevitably, even when you do the job right and you source a good quality part, things happen.
Right. They're complicated machines.
They are. So, but again, at the end of the day, it's about value. It's not about cheapest price for us.
And the relationship with the customer. Because if someone comes in and something has gone wrong, they know they can get it fixed. You got a customer for life.
That's the key.
Sure. Yeah.
And we really go out of our way to take care of people after the service visit. So following up, just checking in, courtesy call. How's the car? How are you?
Very cool.
You know, and people really appreciate that because then they know that we genuinely care about them. And we do. So yeah, it's all those pieces that make a difference. And that's kind of how I answer those questions when people start talking about why should I come here? How much is this? What is the cost of that? I think if we help them reframe some of their questions, I think they'll get to the place that they want to be quicker when it comes to the services that we provide. And it may not be us, and that's okay. We're not for everybody, just like a quick lube shop is not for everybody. Yeah. But quick lube shops have their place for a lot of people in the market, and they do a great job. And there's a lot of quick lube shops in town that refer a lot of work to us.
Cool.
But that goes back to relationships again. Yeah. So
cool.
The opportunity to kind of share what we're about in front of a lot of people that may not know about us is great. So yeah, I appreciate you being here today. Yeah. Hopefully the mics were working well and
hopefully
they picked up everything. And
everyone, this has been another episode of Get to Know Kelowna. Again, I'm your host, Darcy Fiander. I'm a realtor with Vantage West Realty, and today I'm here at Motorwerke, and I've got Chris Germana with me. He's the founder, owner, and operator of it, and I hope you guys got some value out of this, and I hope you're going to come check these guys out. It is a really cool shop. So, Chris, thanks very much.
Thanks, Darcy. Like I said, come by anytime. I know you're a car guy, so
yeah.
You can come and hang out
anytime.
We're
getting the tour after today. Right?
Check out some of the projects we have going on. But so I just wanted to say thank you to you as well, because it's great giving us the opportunity to get in front of some people who may not know that we're here or know that we do or know what we do. We do everything from basic services like tires, brakes, and oil changes, all the way up to advanced level electrical diagnostics, vehicle programming software, major engine repair, transmission repair, and everything in between. Wow. So it's yeah, it's been great having you again today. So thanks for this.
Yeah, not a problem.
Yeah.
If anybody out there wants to learn more about some local businesses, you can check out the website at www.parkbench.com/Kelowna. Thanks again for watching. Take care.
Awesome. Thanks.
No
That's
worries.
great. Super great.
That was awesome.
Yeah.